So if you've seen, the first book that I'm reading for my self-study is Latine Herbalism, and these are my next round of notes. So, we were talking about infusions. We talked about water infusions, now we're talking about oil infusions. Oil infusions have the properties of the herbs infused into the carrier oils, which we talked about carrier oils a little bit earlier on in my notes. So the author recommends the solar infusion method, and this is when the infusion is heated by the sun for a full lunar cycle. Dried herbs work best, and that's all I'm really going to tell you about this part of my notes. So extractions comes next, and extractions is it's agua frescas. You guys probably know what an agua frescas is. I didn't know that they were supposed to be medicinal. I thought it was just a fun little drinky drink. But apparently it is supposed to be medicinal, and it's a preventative measure rather than like I have a fever, so I'm gonna drink some agua frescas. No, it's more like, drink this agua frescas so you don't get sick, kind of thing. And it's, the things that I got from it was that it should be served chilled but without ice, and that, yeah. So up next were tinctures. Tinctures are usually made with an alcohol 60 to 80 proof. This is done not only to extract the oils, but to preserve them. In the author's opinion, it can be more concentrated and convenient than a tea, which makes sense, especially for long-term use, especially as it has a longer shelf life. This, like the other oil infusions, should be prepped for a full lunar cycle. And like I said, it can be used in the place of tea. And then right after that were glycerin tinctures, which is the same thing, but with glycerin instead of alcohol, used for like the elderly, children, people who just can't or won't drink. And the author encourages you to make sure to use plant-based glycerins because there are other kinds, and obviously that's not good for you. So used plant-based glycerin. And then that's all I've gotten so far. Hello? I've been like, what the fuck is that noise? What the fuck is that noise? It's my cat. My cat was walking around making noises, being scary. Thank you, kitty. I love you. Hello, and welcome back to my fall curriculum. For those of you that don't remember, the first book I'm reading for my fall curriculum is Latine Herbalism. Also, please ignore the thunderstorm in the background. I am anxious and, like a dog, need soothing sounds to calm me down. Anyways, I have a lot of notes this time. I have 10 pages of notes this time. To be fair, these are kind of small pages. It's kind of a small notebook. But still, 10 pages of notes this time. So I was really on a roll. So last time we started talking about tinctures, and I didn't make it very far into that chapter, so this is a continuation of tinctures. So up next is infused vinegar. This, like glycerin tinctures, which I covered in the last video, can be used in place of alcohol. It has the same prep as the other kinds of tinctures, which I don't think I talked about because, like I've said a couple times, I want you guys to go read this book for yourself. I personally checked it out free from my local library, so I'm sure there are other, if not your local library, other accessible means to read it. But I just don't feel comfortable, like, giving away all the secrets of the book when it's this kind of book. Anyways, so it's important with infused vinegars to do tests before you make the infused vinegar, because apparently some herbs just really don't work in the vinegar and it makes it stinky and nasty, and you just don't want that. Also, an important note is no metal. No metal for storing or prepping the vinegar, which makes sense because, you know, vinegar, metal, not good. So just avoid that. Unlike other tinctures, it only needs a half lunar cycle instead of a full lunar cycle, so 15 days instead of like 30. And this is good for short-term ailments, especially respiratory issues, which, you know what, maybe I could use some of that. Maybe we could all use some of that with COVID going around. Maybe we could all use some help with our respiration. Not that I don't think herbalism is going to cure your COVID, just, but you know, maybe we could all take care of our lung health more in general. Also, wear a mask. No one at the doctor's office today was wearing a mask. It was a little sad. So up next, we have essential oils. So, it said that this is a volatile alcohol. What does this mean? I don't know. It's extracted through distillation, and it's important to dilute this before use because it is very, very potent. Also, the author is careful to note that there is no evidence of safe long-term use for essential oils, and that it should only be used minimally as a topical. So, aguas florals were... This is a lower concentration of volatile oils, or volatile alcohols, which I don't really know what that means. I will have to look it up later. This is not used for ingestion. It should be used for topical and ritual purposes only. Okay, so up next we have compounds. Compounds are when you take two or more ingredients and they are combined to make one preparation, one, thing. And there are multiple different kinds of compounds. So up first we have, there are multiple different kinds of compounds. Balms, salves, and ointments. These are thicker than liquid, should be applied to the skin, and made with oil and wax. Up first we have balms. This is a thick and hard consistency. It's made with more wax than the other elements of the compound. And it's good for hot climates or during the summer, which makes sense to me. Salves are a medium consistency as compared to the other ones. Breaks down easily when pressed and should, again, be applied to the skin. And ointments are more like lotion with oil. They easily spread on the skin, and these should be covered with a gauze or a cloth, and they will melt at a high temperature. Elixirs are a poor man's tincture, is what the author called it. Also potentially called syrup. It's basically just a watered down tincture, and it's made with 3 parts tea, 1 part alcohol, and it's good for short-term ailments. The next chapter is building a home herbalaria, and the only note I had from that was keep herbs and raw materials protected by doors. And this is because this chapter was mostly like a bunch of common sense stuff and things that I will want more when I'm actually setting up an area like that. But again, a lot of it was kind of common sense things, very similar to cooking. So it was very useful, but just I don't think I personally need it for my notes. Anyways, chapter 4, herbal terminology. I made a nice little diagram. I copied the diagram they had in the book. And this cycle is the seed cycle. And it's germinate seed, transplant the seedling becomes a plant, plant flowers, plant seeds, plant decomposes, and then plant seed. Plant the seed, not, you know what I mean. And then also I did another drawing. The 4 points of harvest in a growth process are 1, the plant stage, 2, the flower stage, so this is part of the plant cycle, 3, the fruit stage, and 4, the root stage. And a note that the author had was you should harvest chamomile, or like an example the author had was you should harvest chamomile during the flowering stage. So that brings me to why is this important? It's important because you want to harvest different plants at different stages, and in some cases, different oh, hello Kitty, I didn't know you were in here. And in some cases, one plant is good for different things, but in different phases. Okay, so up next we come to chapter 5, Sun Energy. The author starts out this chapter by saying, in Mexico, it is believed that the womb mirrors the place of creativity in the vibrational body, which I don't know if I fully understand what that means, but I've been trying to wrap my head around it for a couple days. I'm sure I'll figure it out. But it goes on to say that the belly button is the source of power and connection to the vibrational body, which, you know what, that actually makes sense to me. Hey, kitty. That actually makes sense to me, and it does make sense to me that, like, the stomach, the womb, the center, that's, you know, it makes sense to me that that's all in there. Food is a form of medicine is a note that I have down. I guess this is from another section. And, oh, right. So the book listed many cultures that hold the stomach as a place of power and energy. I don't have quite the list that I had last time it did a cultural comparison. But yeah, there were quite a few where it was all centered on the stomach and the sun and warmth and energy, which makes sense to me because the stomach is a very warm place and it is generating energy because it has to break down all that food. So that honestly kind of makes sense to me. The next section is remedies, and the first focus is on digestive issues. Digestive issues are thought to be the result of too much heat or air in your digestive system, which that checks out. A remedy to this can be mint tea. The energy of mint tea is cool/dry. And you use the leaf and stem. And oh my god, I'm running out of time. Okay, well, I'll have to do a part 2 of this one. Actually, you know what? I'll just pick you back up at the next time I do notes because I'm like almost done here. This has been 10 minutes of you guys listening to me read notes, so I'll just pick you up at the next time I write notes. Goodbye.